Imagine this, it's 1928 in Brazil's dry northeastern backlands. The sun beats down mercilessly as a young woman makes a decision that will etch her name into history. She's abandoning her prescribed life, leaving behind the safety of domesticity to join Brazil's most feared outlaw. This isn't just an impulsive act of passion, it's a radical rejection of everything society expects from a woman of her time and place. This is the moment Maria Gomes de Oliveira transforms into the figure we now know as Maria Bonita, or Beautiful Maria, the first woman to break into the fiercely masculine world of the cangaceiros, those legendary bandits who terrorized and fascinated Brazil for decades. While North Americans celebrate the outlaw romance of Bonnie and Clyde, Brazil's own bandit couple offers an even more complex tale of rebellion, violence, and unexpected cultural transformation. Their story opens a window into a Brazil rarely seen in international histories, a world of desperate poverty, brutal state oppression, and individuals who chose to live by their own rules, whatever the cost. So, what transformed an ordinary farmer's daughter into the Queen of Cangaço? How did her presence fundamentally change one of Brazil's most notorious outlaw movements? And why does her image still appear on murals, inspire songs, and fuel heated debates nearly a century after her death? Let's unravel the remarkable story of Maria Bonita, whose life forces us to reconsider the boundaries between criminality and resistance, between personal freedom and collective struggle, in a society that offered women precious few paths to autonomy. Hello, lovely history fans. I'm Dr. Julia Martins and I'm a historian. Growing up in Brazil, I remember hearing the tales of this outlaw couple whose story deserves wider recognition, Lampião and Maria Bonita, the key figures of the Cangaço movement that swept across Brazil's northeastern backlands in the early 20th century. I'm particularly interested in Maria Bonita, who became a contested national symbol. So, today we'll explore this unlikely figure who has been called everything from a feminist pioneer to a violent criminal, from a freedom fighter to a victim of circumstance. The truth, as we'll discover, is far more intriguing than any single label could capture. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and remember to subscribe to the channel. It would also be great if you considered becoming a patron on Patreon. It truly does help. Now, let's talk about Maria Bonita and what her life and her story reveal about gender dynamics, social constraints, and the complex reality of outlaw life in Brazil's harsh sertão region. So, as I mentioned, Maria Bonita's real name was Maria Gomes de Oliveira. Born in 1911 in a small village called Malhada da Caiçara in Bahia, Maria came from a farming family, facing the rigid gender expectations typical of rural Brazil in the early 1900s. By the age of 15, she found herself in an arranged marriage to a shoemaker named José Miguel da Silva, a union marked by constant conflict and unhappiness. What makes Maria's story remarkable is what happened next. So in 1928, she made what was then an unthinkable decision. She left her husband. For a woman in 1920s rural Brazil, separation wasn't merely frowned upon, it was scandalous. The following year, fate intervened when the notorious bandit Virgulino Ferreira da Silva, known as Lampião, passed through Maria's region. Their mutual attraction is said to have been, immediate and transformative. In 1930, Maria abandoned her conventional life and she fled with Lampião, becoming the first woman to join the previously all-male Cangaceiro band. Interestingly, the name Maria Bonita, Beautiful Maria, wasn't used during her lifetime. She was known as Maria de Dea, referring to her mother, or Maria do Capitão, the captain's Maria, in reference to Lampião. The moniker Maria Bonita was popularized by the media after her death, contributing to her mythological status as the Queen of Cangaço. Now, Maria's entry into the bandit group marked a profound shift in Cangaço culture. Lampião started allowing other bandits to bring female companions into the fold, fundamentally changing the group's dynamics. By challenging these gender boundaries, Maria opened doors for more than 30 other women who would eventually join the band. Now, the reality of cangaceiro life was extraordinarily harsh. For 8 years, Maria roamed the northeastern sertão with Lampião, enduring, searing heat, thirst, hunger, and frequent shootouts with police forces known as volantes. Women in the band typically didn't participate directly in combat. They remained in the rearguard during confrontations, tending to the wounded and maintaining the camp. Within this difficult existence, Maria carved out a respected position. Beyond being Lampião's companion, she contributed significantly to the visual identity of the cangaceiros, crafting elaborate embroidered clothing and decorations that became emblematic of the band's distinctive appearance. Those ornate leather hats and adorned scarves that have become iconic images of the cangaceiros owe much to Maria Bonita's creativity. And then Maria gave birth to a daughter, Expedita, in the middle of the Caatinga scrubland in 1932. Like many cangaceiras, she immediately entrusted the baby to friends outside the band to be raised safely, and then she returned to outlaw life. Records suggest that Maria experienced multiple pregnancies during her years in the Cangaço, but Expedita was her only child to survive. Maria's life with Lampião came to a tragic conclusion. In the early morning of 28 July 1938, while camped at Grota do Angico in Sergipe State, the group was ambushed by police forces. Lampião, Maria Bonita, and 11 others were killed in the attack. What followed was shocking. The authorities decapitated the dead cangaceiros and displayed their severed heads throughout northeastern Brazil as trophies, proof that the feared band had been destroyed. Some accounts even suggest that Maria and Lampião may have been beheaded while still alive, a gruesome end that symbolically marked the decline of the Cangaço movement in Brazil. Maria Bonita's legacy is undeniably complicated. From a feminist perspective, she embodies contradiction, transgressive yet not revolutionary in terms of female emancipation. Her decision to break free from an unhappy arranged marriage and pursue a life of her choosing was remarkably bold for her time and place. She defied the rigid social constraints that limited women's autonomy in early 20th century rural Brazil. However, within the Cangaço, women remained under a strict patriarchal structure. Strategic decisions and leadership remained with the men, while female companions were relegated to domestic duties and expected to show absolute fidelity. The punishment for suspected infidelity by women was often death, while men faced no such consequences for their behavior. Funny that. Contemporary historians like Adriana Negreiros have further complicated our understanding of gender dynamics in the Cangaço. Many women entered the bands involuntarily, as it turns out, through kidnapping and sexual assault. While Maria Bonita appears to have joined willingly, others had no choice. If a cangaceiro desired a young woman from the sertão, her options were stark: join him or face death, sometimes alongside her family. So, is Maria Bonita a feminist icon? She certainly broke boundaries by asserting her desires and escaping family oppression, inspiring later generations of women to challenge social norms. Yet, once in the Cangaço, she adapted to the prevailing sexist roles without evidence, to my knowledge at least, that she actively contested female subordination within the group. Her feminist legacy is perhaps more symbolic than practical. Maria Bonita represents a woman who dared to seek individual freedom amid adversity, even if she didn't fight for a collective cause for women. Maria Bonita rapidly entered Brazilian popular imagination. Poets of literatura de cordel, so popular verse pamphlets, and regional storytellers immortalized her in romanticized accounts. In these narratives, she often appears as a fearless heroine, a kind of Joan of Arc of the Caatinga, wielding weapons alongside her companions and bravely confronting the police. After her death, newspapers and magazines printed her name and photos, capturing the curiosity of urban audiences. The newspaper A Noite in Rio de Janeiro announced the fall of Lampião with sensationalist headlines the day after the ambush, dedicating its entire front page to what it called the most sensational scoop and displaying shocking photos to celebrate the end of the bandits. Maria Bonita's story inspired numerous artistic works throughout the 20th century. Films in the Brazilian northeastern western genre, Cangaço films and theatrical plays, incorporated characters based on Lampião and Maria Bonita. In 1982, TV Globo broadcast the acclaimed miniseries Lampião and Maria Bonita, portraying the last months of the band's life. This was the first miniseries in Brazilian television that brought the Cangaço legend to a national audience. Folk songs and Brazilian popular music often reference Maria Bonita, the most famous being Acorda Maria Bonita, a shot attributed to the cangaceiro Volta Seca.
Acorda Maria Bonita, levanta, vai fazer o café, que o dia já vem raiando e a polícia já está em pé.
Whose verses, Wake Up and Make the Coffee, The Day is Already Dawning, became part of June festival songs and perpetuated her name in musical culture. Today, Maria Bonita remains one of the most famous figures from northeastern Brazil, celebrated in cultural fairs, museums, and artworks. In her homeland in Bahia, there's the Museum of the Queen of Cangaço, dedicated to preserving her memory. Her image, often alongside Lampião, adorns murals, statues, woodcuts, and even commercial brands, establishing her as a symbol of sertão culture. Various groups and events adopt the name Maria Bonita in tribute to her courage and independence. Feminist collectives, especially in the Northeast, see her as an emblem of female strength, using her memory in campaigns for women's rights and appreciation of rural women. Still, since her death, Maria Bonita's image has been polarized. For many Northeasterners and admirers of Cangaço culture, she belongs to the pantheon of righteous rebels, a female Robin Hood who, with her husband, challenged the oligarchies and the oppressive power of the state. Critics, however, view her as a participant in a violent gang of thieves and murderers, with no heroic aura to be celebrated. Brazilians still diverge, villain to some, vigilante to others. This duality is reflected in the collective imagination. While some of the public deify them as romantic legends, others, including descendants of cangaceiro victims, reject any glorification of the pair. Even in 1938, immediately after the band's death, authorities in the Getúlio Vargas government warned against Maria Bonita's mythification. In the official report of the operation that eliminated them, the federal interventor Agamenon Magalhães noted, "It is a sin against the homeland to deify Maria Bonita." The story of Maria Bonita reveals the complexities of Brazilian history, the harsh realities of life in the sertão, and the constraints faced by women in early 20th century rural society. She defied expectations by choosing a life of freedom, however perilous, over one of conventional subjugation. Her legacy, as I mentioned, remains contested. Was she a violent criminal, a symbol of resistance, or a woman simply seeking autonomy in a world that offered women few choices? Perhaps she was all of these things simultaneously, her contradictions reflecting the complicated social landscape of Brazil's backlands during this turbulent period. What's certain is that Maria Bonita's story continues to captivate, challenging us to look beyond simple narratives of heroes and villains, and to understand how gender, poverty, violence, and resistance have shaped Brazil's cultural memory. I hope you enjoyed learning about Maria Bonita. Let me know in the comments, who is your favorite outlaw, Brazilian or not? If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and remember to subscribe to the channel. And maybe, just maybe, become a patron on Patreon. Obrigada e tchau, tchau!